Beneath the crashing waves and shifting sands of time lies a mystery that has haunted human imagination for over 2,000 years. A city of immense power, wisdom, and beauty, swallowed by the sea in a single day and night. Was it real? A lost empire erased from history? Or merely a parable woven by a philosopher to warn against the dangers of hubris? The legend of Atlantis is more than a tale of sunken ruins. It is a mirror reflecting our deepest desires, for lost knowledge, for a forgotten golden age, for a truth buried beneath myth. From ancient scrolls to satellite scans, from Mediterranean shores to the ocean's depths, the search continues. Welcome to Timeless Secrets, where history isn't just told, it's relived. Ancient empires, forgotten kings, and untold stories. Every episode, a new journey through time. This isn't just history. This is history reborn.
Beneath the crashing waves of the world's oceans lies one of humanity's most enduring mysteries, the legend of Atlantis. A lost civilization said to be rich in power, wisdom, and splendor, destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune. It's a tale that has haunted the minds of scholars, explorers, and dreamers for over 2,000 years. The story begins not in an ancient ruin or a forgotten shipwreck, but in the writings of the Greek philosopher Plato. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he describes a magnificent island empire that existed over 9,000 years before his time, beyond the Pillars of Hercules. It was a society of immense sophistication, flourishing in arts, architecture, and philosophy, until it fell victim to its own pride and sank beneath the waves. In this documentary, we embark on a journey through time, myth, and science to separate fact from fiction. We'll explore the origins of the Atlantis legend, decipher its philosophical meaning, examine archaeological and geological theories, and dive deep into the cultural imagination that keeps this myth alive. Join us as we uncover the truth behind the myth of Atlantis and ask the ultimate question: was this lost world a historical reality or a powerful metaphor for the rise and fall of civilizations? To understand Atlantis, we must go back to the 4th century BCE, to the writings of the great philosopher Plato. A student of Socrates and teacher to Aristotle, Plato's work laid the foundation of Western thought. Among his many philosophical dialogues, 2 stand out as the sole ancient sources of the Atlantis story: Timaeus and Critias. In Timaeus, Plato presents Atlantis as part of a conversation between Socrates and several interlocutors, including Critias, who recounts a tale passed down by his grandfather from the Athenian statesman Solon. According to the account, Solon had traveled to Egypt and learned from priests in the city of Sais about a mighty island civilization that existed 9,000 years earlier. This island, called Atlantis, was said to lie beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the ancient term for the Strait of Gibraltar. It was larger than Libya and Asia combined, boasting grand palaces, vast canals, fertile fields, and a highly organized society. The Atlanteans, descendants of the god Poseidon and a mortal woman, built a technologically advanced civilization governed by wise rulers and powerful armies. But as the tale continues in Critias, we learn that Atlantis' greatness led to arrogance and moral decay. The Atlanteans sought to dominate the known world, waging war against the virtuous Athenians. The gods, angered by their hubris, struck the island down with earthquakes and floods, sinking it into the sea in a single catastrophic day. Plato himself claimed the tale was true, yet many scholars argue otherwise. They believe Atlantis was a literary device, a philosophical allegory representing his ideal state, as outlined in the Republic, and a cautionary tale about the dangers of imperial ambition and moral decline. Indeed, Plato was not a historian. He was a philosopher. His dialogues often blended myth and reason, using fictional settings to explore ethical and political ideas. The rich detail of Atlantis may have been crafted not from memory or record, but from imagination and intent. Classical thinkers were divided. Aristotle reportedly dismissed the story outright, calling it Plato's invention. Others, like Crantor, a student of Plato's school, believed it was based on real Egyptian records. Over time, the ambiguity only deepened. Was Atlantis a historical memory distorted over millennia? A symbolic tale cloaked in realism? Or a blend of fact, fiction, and philosophical teaching? What is certain is this: Plato's story of Atlantis planted a seed that would grow far beyond his original purpose. igniting centuries of speculation, exploration, and obsession. If Atlantis truly existed, where was it? For centuries, adventurers, scholars, and treasure hunters have scoured the globe in search of its ruins. And while Plato gave us a key geographic clue that Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, interpreting that phrase has opened a world of possibilities. The Pillars of Hercules are widely accepted today as the Strait of Gibraltar, the narrow channel that separates Spain from North Africa and links the Mediterranean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. To Plato, this marked the threshold between the known and unknown world, suggesting Atlantis was somewhere out in the Atlantic. But was it a literal reference, or a symbolic frontier between civilization and chaos? The most prominent theory links Atlantis to Santorini, also known as ancient Thera, in the Aegean Sea. Around 1600 BCE, this volcanic island exploded in one of the most powerful eruptions in human history. The Minoan civilization on nearby Crete, a highly advanced society with impressive architecture and maritime power, collapsed soon after. Many scholars argue that Plato's tale could be a distorted memory of this real event, a sophisticated island culture destroyed by cataclysm. Others look west, toward southern Spain, where the lost city of Tartessos once stood near the Guadalquivir River. Ancient records describe Tartessos as a wealthy and mysterious kingdom, flourishing in trade with the Phoenicians and famed for its precious metals. Underneath the mudflats of Doñana National Park, satellite scans have revealed geometric shapes, possible remnants of ancient canals and buildings, leading some to believe this region could be the true location of Atlantis. In the Caribbean, divers have pointed to the enigmatic Bimini Road near the Bahamas, a submerged line of large, flat stones that resemble man-made paving. Discovered in 1908, some believe it's the remains of an ancient harbor or road, while most geologists insist it's a natural limestone formation shaped by erosion. Still, believers in Atlantis claim it aligns too neatly to be accidental. Even more extreme ideas take us to Antarctica, where proponents of the Earth crust displacement theory argue that Atlantis was located on what is now the frozen continent, before it shifted south. Others suggest the Azores, mid-Atlantic islands of volcanic origin, are remnants of a sunken Atlantis. And then there's the Sahara Desert's Eye of Africa, also known as the Richat structure. This massive concentric geological formation bears an uncanny resemblance to Plato's description of Atlantis's circular city design, but lies far from the ocean, buried in the sands of Mauritania. What connects all these theories is not just the search for ruins, but the pursuit of a legend powerful enough to reshape maps and imaginations. Yet despite decades of exploration, there remains a stubborn reality. No location has produced definitive proof of Atlantis. No inscriptions, no records, no undisputed ruins that match Plato's precise details. And so the hunt continues, not only across land and sea, but through the minds of those captivated by the dream of discovering a world lost beneath the waves. In the age of satellites and submarines, the dream of discovering Atlantis has become not just the domain of adventurers, but of scientists. With modern tools, researchers can now scan the ocean floor, analyze ancient landscapes, and peer beneath layers of sediment once considered impenetrable. Marine archaeology has advanced rapidly in the past few decades. Multi-beam sonar, underwater drones, and remote sensing technologies have allowed archaeologists to detect submerged cities, shipwrecks, and ancient coastlines that were previously invisible. With much of the Earth's seafloor still unexplored, some believe it's only a matter of time before a lost civilization is uncovered. One of the most intensively studied regions is Santorini and Crete, where the Minoan civilization once thrived. Excavations at Akrotiri, a Minoan settlement buried in volcanic ash, have revealed frescoes, drainage systems, and multi-story buildings, evidence of a complex society abruptly silenced by nature. While there's no mention of Atlantis in Minoan texts, some believe the destruction of Thera inspired the myth. Further afield, underwater ruins discovered off the coast of India near the city of Dwarka have raised eyebrows. Submerged structures, believed to be over 9,000 years old, were found off the Gulf of Kampat. Likewise, Yonaguni Monument near Japan features mysterious stone formations beneath the sea, sparking debates over whether they're man-made temples or natural geological shapes. These sites are tantalizing, but also controversial. Many scholars warn against stretching the evidence to fit a mythical narrative. The absence of inscriptions, artifacts, or writing systems that match Plato's account makes it difficult to claim any site as Atlantis with certainty. Moreover, the myth has attracted its fair share of pseudoscience and sensationalism. Fringe theorists often interpret ambiguous evidence through the lens of preconceived belief, promoting theories that lack peer-reviewed support or ignore scientific context. The scientific community urges caution. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Until solid proof emerges, inscriptions bearing the name Atlantis, or ruins perfectly matching Plato's layout, the legend remains speculative. Still, the pursuit is not without value. These investigations deepen our understanding of human history, climate change, and ancient migrations. And sometimes, in the search for a myth, we uncover truths far more profound about who we were and what we dreamed to be. For over 2 millennia, Atlantis remained a tantalizing footnote in Plato's philosophy until the Renaissance. As Europe rediscovered classical knowledge, Plato's dialogues found new audiences, and with them, the legend of Atlantis was reborn. Renaissance thinkers, intrigued by Plato's vision of an advanced civilization, debated whether Atlantis was fact or fable. Some, inspired by the Age of Discovery, saw parallels between the New World and Plato's fabled island. Could ancient explorers have reached the Americas? Could indigenous peoples be descendants of Atlanteans? By the 19th century, Atlantis captivated both literary and mystical minds. Writers and esoteric philosophers breathed new life into the myth. Among them was Madame Helena Blavatsky, founder of Theosophy, who claimed Atlantis was a spiritually advanced race, the fourth root race of humanity, destroyed by misuse of psychic powers. Her visions inspired countless spiritual movements and seeded the myth with mystical overtones. This era also saw Atlantis creep into mainstream literature. In Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Captain Nemo visits Atlantis' ruins beneath the sea. Ignatius Donnelly's 1882 bestseller Atlantis, The Antediluvian World, proposed it was the origin of all ancient civilizations, from Egypt to the Americas. In the 20th and 21st centuries, Atlantis permeated popular culture. It appeared in comic books like Marvel's Namor and DC's Aquaman, in films from Disney's Atlantis, The Lost Empire to Stargate, Atlantis, and in video games and science fiction. For the New Age movement, Atlantis became a beacon of lost wisdom, a golden age of enlightenment. But interpretations vary. To some, Atlantis is a utopia, a model society of peace and progress. To others, it's a cautionary tale, a society doomed by greed, arrogance, and the abuse of power. In Plato's own words, it was a civilization that fell out of favor with the gods. Whether as paradise lost or warning unheeded, Atlantis remains a mirror of our hopes, fears, and imagination. So what was Atlantis really? A misremembered cataclysm? A metaphor for moral decay? Or something else entirely? Many scholars believe Plato based Atlantis on real events, possibly the Minoan eruption of Santorini. The sudden collapse of a thriving island civilization engulfed by the sea fits Plato's narrative, albeit distorted by time and interpretation. Others suggest Atlantis wasn't historical but philosophical. Plato may have crafted the story as an allegory, a parable of hubris and the ideal society gone awry. In Critias, he contrasts virtuous Athens with corrupt Atlantis, presenting a moral lesson: the fall of a mighty empire due to spiritual decay. Psychologists have explored the myth through Jungian symbolism, seeing Atlantis as an archetype of the lost self, or collective memory of a golden age. It represents our longing for a time of harmony before division, conflict, and complexity set in. But not all interpretations are so scholarly. In modern times, Atlantis has become a hotbed of fringe theories and conspiracies. Some claim the Atlanteans possessed advanced technology, even nuclear power or flying machines. Others link it to aliens, pyramids, or ancient astronauts, blending science fiction with pseudo-history. Television specials and online forums propagate these ideas, often citing misinterpreted maps, misidentified ruins, or imaginative translations of ancient texts. The problem? These claims often bypass peer review, ignore contradicting evidence, and cherry-pick facts to fit grand narratives. Mainstream scholars push back. Linguists warn against twisting ancient Greek beyond recognition. Historians remind us that Plato's works were dialogues, philosophical fiction with deeper meanings. Archaeologists stress that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. In the end, Atlantis sits at the crossroads of fact and fantasy. Its enduring mystery is as much about our desire to believe as it is about any sunken city. Why does the legend of Atlantis endure? Why, after more than 2,000 years, are we still drawn to a tale of a city swallowed by the sea? Perhaps it's because Atlantis speaks to something deep within the human soul. The yearning for lost knowledge, forgotten glory, and the dream of an unspoiled world. In times of change or uncertainty, Atlantis offers a kind of cultural nostalgia, a place where wisdom, peace, and technology once coexisted in harmony, until hubris brought it crashing down. This cycle of rise and fall mirrors our own history, our fears, and our repeated mistakes. Atlantis also carries symbolic power. In political discourse, it serves as a warning, how great civilizations can fall through corruption and pride. In environmental debates, it becomes a metaphor for climate change, a reminder that even mighty empires can drown if they ignore nature's warnings. In dreams, fiction, and spiritual thought, Atlantis represents a golden age, a lost paradise we hope to reclaim. It reflects our eternal quest for meaning, our desire to connect with ancient wisdom, and our fear that we may already be walking the same doomed path. Atlantis isn't just a story, it's a mythical mirror, showing us who we are and who we might become. From the philosophical writings of Plato to deep-sea explorations and modern conspiracy theories, Atlantis remains one of history's most compelling mysteries. We've journeyed through classical texts, archaeological pursuits, scientific investigations, and cultural interpretations, yet no definitive evidence confirms its existence. The candidates are many, from the sunken island of Santorini to the sands of the Sahara, the Azores, and beyond. But each theory falls short of conclusively matching Plato's vivid description. Some scholars argue that Atlantis was never meant to be found, that it was Plato's allegory, not history. Others believe it could be a distorted memory of a real cataclysm, embedded in humanity's collective past, and yet the mystery endures. Perhaps that's the true legacy of Atlantis. Not as a lost city waiting to be uncovered, but as a reflection of our deepest longings, for wisdom, for paradise, for understanding the fragility of civilization. Atlantis may never rise from the depths, but in our art, our stories, and our dreams, it has never sunk. In the end, the search for Atlantis tells us more about ourselves than about a vanished world, and that may be its most profound truth.